It's 11 o'clock. Call the meeting to order.
Pledge of Allegiance.
No, just saw something different. Okay, very good. Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I'm going to read the list of members here so Charlotte knows who's here.
Charlotte is here on my phone.
Hi, Charlotte.
Hello, Charlotte.
Hi, Charlotte.
Hello, thank you.
Mrs. Judge is here, Barb is here, Mike Jones, Gretchen, Hope, Randy, and Kim, and Justine will be in soon. Mr. Yeager had a conflict, and I haven't heard from Chris.
I've seen Chris out and about. I'm not sure where he is today, but I've seen him out and about. We have the minutes of the March 28th meeting. Anybody have any additions or corrections to that? If not, is there a motion to approve?
So made.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Planning board report. We have no meeting this evening. Last meeting, we did some upkeep on our master plan. We made some minor changes that we've been floating to do for a while now. And that's probably what we're going to be doing if we don't have any meetings. And Mike is absent today. He's got some business to attend to. And we'll wait for Justine to come in about as far as our brochure. Hope, you want to say something about the Dune plantings?
Sure, I have nothing to report because the planting project is postponed because there hasn't been any DEP approval yet. Apparently, not only was there a problem with having removed and disturbed the dune grass plantings, there also needs to be DEP approval to replant what was disturbed. And I spoke to the mayor, I guess 2 or 3 days ago, and he told me they don't have any idea of the timing. So all I can do is keep up for it with it.
I know there's some issues. I don't know if you know, Lou Belasco, our deputy manager, he resigned. So he's moving on. He's got another job opportunity, I believe. So that's probably some
That's
issue
part of it.
there. And I'm not even going to let Justine sit down. That's okay.
That's okay.
We just got started.
We're right in the spot where you can talk about, I guess, soon the brochure is moving.
Yes. The
Any comment on it?
grant application was submitted,
Okay.
receipt of the city's letter, and the application was confirmed by ANJAC. And Inkwell never replied with a quote,
Okay.
so I priced it through Staples for the time being, for the purposes of the grant application.
Okay.
Once we hear back from them on May 13th, I believe, then we can decide how to proceed and wait for Inkwell and then make a cost-effective decision.
Okay. They're pretty responsive, Staples, right?
Staples is, sure, we could, submit it and have it printed in 2 days.
Yeah.
I'd rather go to Inkwell, but I did call twice to follow up. I think there's some health
Well, look, we
issue.
won't, probably in another month, we'll hear back from Anjek, so we can have that month to figure out if they're interested or not,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. Anybody have any questions about that? Hey, Chris, how you doing? Moving right along, Gretchen, you got a comment on anything going on at the Nature Center?
Well, it says here about the spring cleanup.
Whatever you want to talk.
We had, we had rain. The cleanup was supposed to be April 1st. We postponed it. We did a cleanup on April 8th with the Coast Guard Enlisted Association and Chief Petty Officers Association members came out, and we got a lot done. Then there was another cleanup the week later, so that was the 15th, I guess. And we didn't do a cleanup at the Nature Center, but they did one on the beachfront in Cape May with Lower Cape May Regional High School students. So it's been a lot of like small little cleanups have been happening. And then I understand that the city did another one on Earth Day.
They did,
Or
I'm
the day
sorry.
before,
The day
on
before,
Friday.
on that Friday, I forgot to say. That was what they could put together.
Right.
At least until bigger things are approved.
So there have been several mini cleanups that have been happening, and if anyone was involved in one that I didn't know about, if you collected data, you can submit the data cards to me, and I'll submit them to Clean Ocean Action. And that's really all I know about. The other thing was that, we were preparing the grounds of the Nature Center, and we still have a lot more to do with our gardens. We applied for a pollinator garden grant from the Xerces Society, and we were just notified that we're on the wait list. They had like 3 times the number of applications they anticipated. So we made the short list, but we didn't make the original cut. So if someone that they award the grant to declines for some reason, then they move on to the wait list. So I should know in another week. But yeah, we're moving along with that. We've got our native plant sale fundraiser on Saturday the 6th. The plants arrive next Tuesday. Anybody want to come help unload a truck with $10,000 worth of plants? Come on down to the Nature Center on Tuesday the 2nd.
I'm sorry, what day is it?
The plants come in on Tuesday, May 2nd, around 10:30 to 11. We get a big truckload of plants. And then the sale happens on Saturday the 6th. And we need volunteers for the sale, for unloading. And then we're going to be doing some plantings. Even if we don't get this grant, we're going to be renovating our front pollinator garden at the center. We're doing Workday Wednesdays. Wednesday mornings, the Kiwanis Club comes out, and they help with handyman work. We also have some garden volunteers that come out and help play in the garden. And then Ocean Fest, that's also on here. Ocean Fest is moving along. It's turning into nice turnout with about 6 or 7 artists, vendors, around 6 or 7 environmental groups, organizations, nonprofits that are going to be on hand. We have music. The Honeyhawks and the Squares will be playing from 11 to 4. It's just going to be a nice kind of laid-back day on the grounds of the Nature Center that day. We've got some Coast Guard involvement, the enlisted and the Chief Petty Officers Association, Cape May Maritime Museum with their boat, the Monomoy, they'll bring that down on site. We've got the environmental commissions from Cape May and West Cape May, Clean Ocean Action, Cape May Whale Watch and Research Center. I'm trying to think who else.
Did you get the mosquito commission yet?
Not yet.
Not
I
yet.
mean, there's some other groups pending. The Cape it just came in. The Cape May Food Closet wants to come. I'm like, well, how does that tie to the ocean? But they're going to talk about measures. They're working with local restaurants on reducing food waste. So we're trying to connect everything back to the environment and the ocean. So I thought that made sense too.
Great.
So, and that is June 17th, 10 to 4, and we need volunteers.
I know we, as a commission, we are donating some money. Is that in the works? Any idea? where that-
Haven't seen a check yet. Haven't seen a check from either of the environmental commissions, but they've pretty much committed.
Yeah, Charlotte, go ahead.
Gretchen and all, thank you. So know, the commission had some tables represented last year, and I'd like to say that in prepping, you know, along with some others to help, another craft day centered on the species that are marine related. If you have space for us, we'd be very happy to set up again.
For the Environmental Commission or for some?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, yep, you're included.
Actually, on that note, for anyone here who would like to join, Hope and I are meeting with the West Cape May Environmental Commission on Monday at 4 to discuss what we will be doing at the table this year.
We're meeting at my house, 4 o'clock, Monday, whatever day that is. Monday, May 1st is already. So the two commissions are going to work together on a project. We'll probably continue last year's with the recipes for, that you had for the pesticides, and then something else. And we're thinking we'll probably do invasives because it's really on top of everybody's list right now.
What was the amount? Was it $1,000 we were supposed to
I
get?
thought it was, yeah.
Wonder if we could, can you just give a holler to Mike's secretary upstairs and see if we ever approach them with a check for that?
Okay.
Lou is not up there, but, I mean, we've got a little time yet, but I want to make sure that we get that check written and cut.
I should have brought some posters, I'm sorry, I didn't. I mean, it's on the poster, sponsored by the Environmental Commission of City of Cape May, West Cape May, and the City of Cape May, because the city civic affairs has committed to pay for the musicians. So there's funding coming from them.
I don't know the status of our budget approved yet. I really don't
Never
know.
heard anything.
So, but maybe that's your end to say, where do we stand on the budget when you ask Mike? And just
All
talk.
right, so when I leave here, I'll go.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, and just status of the budget, and then we want to get that check cut for that.
But we are all getting the ANJAC membership, right? Emails and things?
I've been getting it, but I don't know whether anybody else getting.
I get emails.
Getting emails. I get them.
Because I put everybody down on it.
What she's talking about, we had to submit to ANJAC with our check from the city, everybody's names and addresses. And so you should be getting something in the mail, email at least, and the quarterly reports and whatnot from ANJAC. So everybody should be getting that.
I get weekly emails probably from them.
Yeah.
I don't get anything.
Okay. Maybe your old email, I remember.
Oh, that is so old.
I know.
That's like,
Hope I'll pass them what I get on to you.
okay, that's fine, that's great.
Mrs. Judge, do you need?
That is
me to
literally
pass
20
what
years
I
ago,
get
that
on to
old
you
email.
too also?
That's fine, yes.
Okay.
I don't know how to find out what the status of our request is. I mean, I know we submitted the money, so it takes a process, I guess, for all that information to get back. So just be a heads up. Everybody should be getting something from ANJAC.
I mean, I assume that we as a commission are members because I submitted the grant application. And when the chair wrote me back, she didn't flag it due to non-membership. And it's only members are eligible to submit.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's fine. I think we are, but I mean, we really submitted everybody's name personally to ANJAC, so everybody should be on that list. So we'll wait and see. We'll follow up on that next
I
meeting.
got the annual report in the mail.
What's that?
I got the annual report in the mail.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm worried about the newer people that should be getting that. All right, well, we'll keep our heads up on that. Charlotte, you want to talk about whatever you want to talk about?
Sure, I do. I thank you very much for the time.
Go ahead.
In particular, this problem of carbon dioxide, and certainly we humans have a long history of emitting many, many different ways carbon dioxide, certainly from our own cars at times, and certainly from our heat, and certainly from big manufacturing and so forth. So it's a part of our life. But there are ways now to mitigate some of those impacts. And one of the ways that I've been reading about is seaweed. It's an amazing contribution to restore our oceans. Evidently, there are so many types of seaweeds, and seaweed is not a plant; it's an algae, and it's now the fastest growing aquaculture in the world. Certainly in Alaska, we have the largest seaweed farm in North America, and China is right there producing an awful lot of seaweed and has been doing this for a couple thousand years and harvesting it as a feed for certain kinds of animals as well. So with all of those little tiny pieces and threads put together, and this could go on in a textbook form, got to thinking about it and thinking about where we might be able to grow some seaweed within the limits of Cape May and have it make sense. I know that some of you are familiar with the fact that we have a presence from Rutgers University right in the city on Delaware Avenue, the building next to the Nature Center. Scientists are there, and they are doing some other projects through the years, and Gretchen probably could speak to that more carefully. But if you look for the permitting that's needed for seaweed aquaculture, then you find out that within the state of New Jersey, they would just be very, very happy if our state university would get involved in some of this, perhaps in the Back Bay areas. And I should think that credentials in marine biology would be absolutely necessary for some of these tests to go forward, and might be a very, very interesting project for all of us to take part in some way. For example, we have biologists at our high school, Jeff Martin, and certainly we have credentialed people right on our commission who might think that this project could go forward with some oversight. But as I said, the permits would have to be sought, and I just wanted to bring it to your attention because, we are an ocean community, and if we can have some impact on restoring our oceans, perhaps we should go forward with something like this, if not in a big way, perhaps a smaller way. So that's one that I wanted to bring to your attention today, and perhaps we can go, as I get back with all of you, have a few more ideas and facts about this. Gretch, do you have any idea about who our neighbors are next door at the Rutgers facility right now?
Well, there is a change that was happening in that office when Jeanette Ray Keywood passed away. I had heard that Daphne Monroe is a oyster researcher that she was supposed to be in that building now. Eleanor Bochanik retired, so it's been empty a lot, I think, most recently. I could reach out to Dave Bouchek, who is the director of the Haskins Research Lab that oversees that facility, and just kind of touch base. I guess I need to anyway, because we were looking into some speakers for the Ocean Fest. So that's a reason I could reach out to them and just kind of get an update on the types of projects they're working on. Charlotte, when you're talking about this, I see all of this coming together maybe when the timing, when they finally do the shoreline stabilization project of Cape May Harbor, which is still in the works. The Army Corps is still working on it, still looking at their design. As far as I know, it's going to happen someday, whether it's going to be, if we're going to see things happening this coming winter or not, I'm not sure. That's what they say. But, you know, when they create this living shoreline, it may be the time to talk about what other things are going on in the harbor. They had a pilot project of oyster beds out there for a while, like 15, 20 years ago. So we just have to keep in touch with them and find out the types of projects they're working on.
Just so everybody understands, that's the reconstruction of Delaware Avenue too, that's
Yeah.
all part of this thing. So, I mean, Delaware Avenue is falling apart, so they have to fix it.
Yeah.
And it's all part of a major project over there. Yeah. Gretchen, what are they doing at the, on the north side of the canal? What's that building over there doing these days? You know the one I'm talking
The
about?
aquaculture facility?
Yeah, the aquaculture.
That's called the Aquaculture Innovation Center that Rutgers University has. And basically, they raise what's called oyster spat. So that's the seed oyster that then is, that's prime, I would think, that's like 90% of what they do there. They have plans to do other types of aquaculture research, but really it was the restoration, rejuvenation of the whole oyster industry for the last 20 years or more. So all the oyster farms that are along Delaware Bay and elsewhere in New Jersey, they buy their oyster seed, which is little tiny baby oysters, smaller than your pinky nail. So that's really you can take tours of that facility if you'd like. I could arrange that for us. It's really interesting. But yeah, it's been all about oysters pretty much.
Where is that?
Where is that?
So if you go,
on-
anybody ever go to Turdo Vineyards or, well, you go to McDonald's and
Make a
then
left. You make a
take a
left at
left,
McDonald's,
like
not a
you're
right.
going to the canal. And right at the bend, there's some tennis courts on the left side, and then there's a dirt road, and then
Okay, so it's North Cape May.
it's on the north side of the canal.
So it's past those apartments if you go.
Yes,
okay.
yeah.
If you're riding a boat, you can't miss it on a
Yeah.
boat. Can't miss it.
I don't think I've ever taken that road,
Yep.
ever. Good to know.
Well, there has to be some escapees from the plant, because if you look at the jetties by the ferry, there's oysters on them.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
I wouldn't eat them, but it's good for water quality, though.
Yeah.
We're pretty much at the end of the agenda. Anybody have anything you want to say for the good of the order? I want to ask a couple of questions about the wind farm, the windmills off the coast.
Yeah, I actually have an issue that
no.
I would like
Go
to
ahead.
talk,
Go ahead.
to see if the commission would like to take on. And it's a sensitive one, and I think I've brought this up before because I just recently was in South Carolina and went to a couple of, and in Lewis, Delaware, actually, a couple of waterfront communities and just walking along their parks right there and their benches. I think we have kind of bench pollution in Cape May. And I know, and the reason it's sensitive is because they're memorial benches. And, you know, I've mentioned this before, that I personally have a problem with people that decorate them with plastic flowers and tinsel and leave those things there. I mean, I can recognize that maybe if there's a special event, they want to decorate it, but I think that the city should be looking at some kind of rule that, you know, after a week, it needs to be taken down. The things cannot leave there, because we do see some of the, I can guarantee that during the beach cleanup on the beach, that they were finding parts of it in the dunes. And then when you go to Harbor View Park, it seems the city has been putting all the random benches there, and you walk along the edge of the water, and it's like 4 different styles of benches. And to me, there's nothing really serene or peaceful about that. It used to be you'd have a bench, and maybe 30 feet later, there'd be another bench. Now there's bench, 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 bench. And it's just, it's too much. And I just think that it's an aesthetic thing, but to me, then it's also becomes this issue of where people can just put their decorations. So you know,
You got my support. I'm, no question.
I
about
don't
it.
know if we, you know, as a commission, write a letter to council and ask them to please consider addressing this.
Is there, you know, just off the top of my head, is there another way to memorialize somebody that, other than a bench, like planting a tree? And that's, you know, that way they can still memorialize
But you can
people.
memorialize them by putting a plaque on the bench. It's
Right.
the decorations that follow that you're talking about.
Well, it's my understanding that they, on the promenade, they've run out of space. There's no more benches. So now they're putting them in other places, and like I said, it's become just a hodgepodge of benches. And I think in some communities, what they do is if you get a plaque on a bench, it's only for a certain number of years. But I don't know how you take back what they've already done. They've already put something in place. But to me, it's the decorations.
You know, maybe you could have like you know, at least on the promenade, maybe a central edifice where you could actually put those plaques on there of everybody that wanted, had it on a bench originally, and when it's past its time, that plaque goes back to that memorial. You know, so it's only one spot on the whole promenade that has this, but the name is be there for a while.
I think you're going to, yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's a city council thing. They can deal with it,
Well, it might
but,
be, but I mean, at least
you know-
I agree with you. There's so much
Yeah.
stuff that you look at all the time. It's not right, okay?
and I know, but the problem, yeah, and maybe we tackle what they're doing in Harbor View Park, like adding more benches. They need to come up with a plan. And I don't know, Angela, if you have any ideas with your land use planning, if you've ever dealt with this type of thing in a,
From my coastal town in Elizabeth City, one of the things that we did, we only had a handful of benches. They were, I think, like 10 along the waterfront, but no proliferation. You know, they didn't multiply from year to year. And as we reconstructed the boardwalk, we allowed citizens to buy bricks or placards to insert along that. So, because there was this want to, well, I want a bench, my family wants a bench, and that was one way we answered for it. And then we also have a city structure, or we had, Elizabeth City has a city structure, a couple of them right along that waterfront as well. And we used a local artist to draw a tree on the interior, and we placed family placards. You could buy a branch or a limb from that tree. So it was a way for locals to be recognized and to show their monetary support for the park and beach or waterfront improvements. So that was just one idea that we did. There are other ways to do it. As a city administrator, city manager, now that the benches are in, it may be a matter of, as they need sprucing or replacement, they just don't get spruced and replaced, they just get removed. And then,
I think you'll find support in that, to tell you the truth. My gut
But-
tells me that there are a lot of people that feel the same way, okay? But that's
Especially
It's a
on the
council.
promenade.
for sure.
I mean, the only time I've actually seen those benches, no, they're used, but the time where they're used almost almost every bench is used is during the fireworks show. One
People
event.
sit on benches at different times all day long. I can't walk the whole boardwalk without sitting down. I think the idea of this proliferation of messy benches, like you're talking about at Harbors, it was like, oh, well, let's just toss them over there. That's like if you have a basement, well, let's just put it downstairs and then you don't have to think about it. I think that's a real problem, but to remove benches from a place like the boardwalk, I can't see, it's obviously a problem if they start putting frou-frous and plastic flowers and tinsel and things on them, but
To me, it just blocks your view of the ocean. Even though you think it doesn't, but if you're, I don't know, to me, it's like it just raises the promenade level higher than it should be, right? That's just my gut.
Well, we're not the only community, because I know a friend his wife passed, and he waited 3 years for a bench in her favorite spot on Wildwoods. And then he's still waiting for Ocean City, because she also loved Ocean City. So, it is a sensitive issue.
it's a very sensitive issue, and I think the proliferation of it and if they are ill-matched or if they're just kind of tossed somewhere, I think that really is a problem. So, but I would miss the benches if they weren't on the.
Well,
on the
maybe
promenade.
I can draft kind of bullet points or something, suggestions, and I'll bring it to our next meeting.
Give it to Mike Yeager, he can just present it to council.
It would be interesting.
Well, I'd like you all to
Well, I
look
know,
at
we'll look
it.
at it
would be
first.
Yeah.
interesting,
We'll
wouldn't
look at it
Right.
first, but then we can just ultimately just hand it over to Mike and say,
Going up to Philly, yeah.
bring it up.
Right.
At a work session or something.
At the very least, you can have a policy against the public benches that we already have being decorated. And you can have a policy without actually having a really poorly worded regulation, which would probably take 2 years to pass anyway. But the other issue, if benches are being scattered in places just to get rid of them, that's something else. I think that's a really serious and unfortunate thing.
There's one bench on the promenade that they're very energetic about decorating it, because every time I walk by, there's a new decoration on
Yeah.
it. And it's usually,
That can be taken care of, that's,
Is it
usually-
one down by the cove?
no, on the other opposite, it's
see, so there's
Dr., I know the name, Dr. Drake. But
I
there,
know, I know there's one down towards, Madison Avenue.
yeah, that's the one.
Okay. yeah.
And they're very energetic to whoever is decorating them. And it is tinsel and plastic and.
yeah, that's not good. And you're right, it ends up in the beach or worse, on the ocean.
So we need to make an ordinance against it.
That's what I'm saying. This is why I'm suggesting that maybe the city can make a policy, because we know what it takes to get an ordinance through. But a policy a statement, a public statement,
Our rules.
and then maybe something firmer for the benches on the promenade. Yeah.
I had just a few questions.
Go ahead.
I wanted to ask to follow up on topics that we discussed during our last meeting. if That's okay? So in terms of the code enforcement.
Would you speak just a little louder?
Bring your mic, kiss your mic.
Sorry. Will code enforcement be attending one of our meetings? We had discussed that as we all become more familiar on how to implement the invasives ordinance and the water conservation ordinance. Actually, Mike, you were going to reach out to
I was
Vito?
going to reach out to the now retired, or resigned deputy manager about getting a list of what the parks and all that kind of stuff. I didn't get to the building inspector.
Okay.
As part of that, I brought 5 sites that I wanted to bring to the attention of the committee in terms of, what do I do with these 5 sites? Who do I bring, to the attention of? They're all public space. And
It's probably Mike Vol, but
Mike
ultimately it'll be Public Works, but I think there ought to be some direction from the top down to Public Works to do something, if that's what we want to have done.
So someone on the commission needs to reach out to Public Works and ask them to attend our May meeting so that we can all be on the same page in terms of the implementation of this.
Okay. I will touch base with Lou Vito downstairs.
they would
and I'll-
probably only need to be a segment of the meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, but I get it. I'll try and get, you're right, we'll have them here for our next meeting.
Okay.
That fell through.
Okay, well, we discussed so many things, it happens, but that's just why I wanted to ask about it. And then the advertisements in the paper from last year, are we going to do that again?
Sorry.
You're right, okay, so the budget, back to the budget.
Well, the answer is probably yes on the advertising. It's just,
Find out from Mike, Gold
And
budget.
then relatedly, if we don't run the same ad, should I update it to be reflective of the new invasives ordinance? Probably. Or do we want to focus on the water conservation? Because at the Ocean Fest and the Monarch Fest last year, I discovered that most people do not know about the water conservation ordinance. I mean, it's like mind-blowing to most guests at these festivals that even exists. So should I change the ads?
I personally would rather see the invasive species advertising. but
Okay.
Only because that's what we've been pushing lately.
Okay,
Let's just reinforce that. Could we do both, I assume? Good.
yeah.
Mike, my only concern is that the invasive species information is more for residents and owners of property, and the ads seem to be more aimed for tourists and letting them know what they can do to be better citizens in Cape May during the summer. That's only an opinion.
Property owners read the paper, too.
I was going to say.
Do you
the
have any-
visitors report on the local paper?
Why don't we do both? I mean, the ad was large. It was a quarter page. Why don't we split it into 2 eighth-page blocks, one on each?
And where do you want to do it?
I don't, Meryl, you handled that last year, right? When the Star and Wave?
It went to the Star and Wave, and
Yeah.
eventually it got paid. They were always about 2 months behind time.
If you can, that ad can be designed as a simple JPEG or PDF file, that then I could send that to the Chamber of Commerce. That would send it to all the business owners that are members. And you got to get to a lot of the owners that are renters. So, more than just an ad for a newspaper, but something that's designed that people could share it on social media. And, I know I have a friend who has a couple of homes that she, rents. I don't know if she rents it through Airbnb or has her own small business. But she sends out a monthly newsletter to all of her past customers. And so people get their information in many different ways. So not everybody's looking at the Star and Wave, but the Chamber You know, I just got the chamber guidebook. Anybody get that in the mail? You know, it's published by the city and the chamber. That should be in that book. Sure. I bet you there's
next year.
probably one sitting out here. I'll go look. And, I mean, next year, we should ask if that could be a page in the book.
Yeah, that's a shame that we missed that.
Let me see.
So can you create that, those two
Yep.
things in a JPEG? So we can-
Yeah, they were JPEGs last year, so I'll just use the same design aesthetic as the brochure, actually, so that it kind of feels cohesive. And I'll just make it in the next week or two to try and we can get it out and get it going. I'll circulate it via email, and then can we just approve it via email instead of waiting until May?
Certainly.
Sure, in the meantime, I'll try to find out if we have
Okay.
a budget.
All right.
I did notice that the street trees on Washington Street have been stripped of their ivy for the most part. I assume that that's a Public Works project. The ivy has not been uprooted from the ground, but most of the trees do not have it growing up the trunks anymore. So the next step is to eradicate the ivy that's in the ground, but that was nice to see.
It's not my phone.
I'm sorry. No, I swear, nobody ever calls me.
It came to my attention, ivy growing on trees. A lot of people do not know that it harms the tree.
It doesn't harm the tree until it gets up in the canopy. It's not a, I forget the name of the word, it's not a,
English ivy actually sends little tendrils into the bark of the tree and will dissociate the bark from.
yes, it will do that. It's, what's the word I'm
falling
after?
off, which exposes.
Parasitic. It's not a parasite, but it does hurt the bark of the tree. It takes a long time to do that. Obviously, some of the street trees on Washington are 100 years old, and look,
But I
they're
think
still there.
If you just said to people, if you
Yeah.
allow that to grow, it's going to kill your tree.
It's going to eventually kill your tree, right?
That carries some weight.
You have those five areas where that you concentrated on, right? Those-
Yeah, do you
Well,
want
no,
to
but I want to, at the May meeting, I want to be
Yeah.
able to give it to Public Works, hopefully.
Fine. It's in my notebook, and
Yeah.
one of them is at the Nature Center. There are three very large, I believe they're silver maples over by the fence, and they're really big, and they have ivy growing up them. That probably might be something that could be handled by the Nature Center at the cleanup.
Further by their willow oak, or their corkscrew willows, I think.
It could be that, yeah.
And
There might be cottonwoods, too. I'm not sure. I couldn't identify them.
you mean closer to the Rutgers building?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're right up against the fence.
And we're working on that. Actually, today, we had someone from the New Jersey Audubon Stewardship Department.
And these are old trees. It'd be a shame to lose
Yeah.
them.
They're being worked on right now.
So
saw
that
that.
actually brings up one
The
of my
really
other
bad, oh,
questions.
sorry.
We had discussed putting together a list, an inventory of city lots with invasives during our last month's meeting. Was there any progress on that?
That's what I was trying, I mentioned I was going to get Lou to do this,
Okay,
but Lou is not here
right.
in the process. I'll find, there is a list, like the Rossi list.
The
that we
Rossi,
have,
yeah.
That we should be able to get our hands on, and I think that'd be the way to start.
So the Rossi list is just online. Like any of us can look at it. It's
Yeah, but I
public.
wanted to see, because you look at a Rossi list, it doesn't tell you exactly where it is. I mean, I don't think it's clear enough where it is. I mean, to me, a tax map is right where you can, between the two of them, you'll know exactly where you're talking about. But maybe you're right, maybe the
I
Rossi.
think you can just click, like each location is hyperlinked and you can click it and it shows you where
Then
each
if that's the
one
case,
is.
then you don't even need to get a tax map at all.
But maybe, like, we as a commission should, like, one of us, a group of us, subcommittee could
I know.
form to then go through it and identify like which of all of these listed properties, which have invasives, and then give that to the city to implement. So, because if they have to go through it, it's not going to happen.
We also discussed that each of us could just look around. I mean, that's how I noticed that all the trees on Washington were, not all, but most of the trees on Washington
bring a
had been
copy
stripped.
of the
Just
Rossi list at the next-
look around our own neighborhoods.
Okay.
And between those two things that we'll have, hopefully we'll have the Public Works guy here, and we can get an idea of gently saying how might he approach helping us clean stuff up.
One thing I want to go back to before we lose the thread on what you were speaking about, your 5 properties. Would we not want to share that list in advance so that we can have productive conversation? Rather than hold the list and present DPW or Public Works with it during the meeting and they can't really respond to some things if we get in the weeds.
Here, I'll just,
Food for thought.
the 5 are the Kiwanis Community Park. The trees are dying there from ivy. Cape May City School,
Yeah.
the trees there are going to start, limbs are going to start dropping off of them. There was the Seawell track heading down toward the Coast Guard base. I don't know what, is that something that the city would want to, the trees there are dozens of trees that are going down the tubes along that street. There's the Nature Center we just talked, there are 3 big trees in the back. They would be a shame to lose. And there's the Fisherman's Memorial where there are dead limbs coming, but the trees are on government property.
Yeah, that's the Coast Guard,
Yeah.
and that's,
But if the limb falls on somebody walking out to the memorial, it doesn't matter to that person which side,
Right.
What do you do with that? We could bring it perhaps to the attention of the Coast Guard, for instance. So those were the 5 that I identified, and there's going to be a lot more, so.
Wouldn't Public Works have a list of the city lots?
Well, they do, but I'm trying to think, can you get an email generated, and then we could just forward it to the Public Works, and hopefully, like you said, you get it to them before they come to the next meeting. Can we do that? Mm-hmm. And,
Email a list
yeah, the
of the
email,
properties.
the list of properties that we're thinking about,
Okay.
and some kind of an outline of what we expect to talk to them about. Maybe, something, a wish list of what we'd like for them to consider.
Okay.
Could we add to that the very large tree in front of the Public Works building? Which is about twice the width that it probably actually is, because that's all ivy.
Edie Copsett, she should be writing to?
Edie is probably the one you want to send it
Yeah,
to.
Edie,
Justine-
right.
Edie Copsick, who used to be in the construction office, is now down at Public Works.
Okay.
All right?
I can tell you that, dealing with invasives on a large scale like this is a huge undertaking. And Public Works has a small staff, a crew that takes care of open spaces and gardens and
It's the beginning of the summer.
we got lucky because I asked them for some help because we had a lot of ivy growing on the Coast Guard fence that separated the Nature Center right where our garbage area is. And I asked them in February for help, and they were able to send out a crew. That was the day they accidentally cut our cable line, so I was without internet for a couple of days. But we got that cleaned up, but there, all of these areas, they're going to have to look for a grant. They're going to have to look for some funding that's going to allow them to really tackle these open spaces because, that's what they were doing at Cape May Point State Park. If any of you remember, like going for a walk in the park 20 years ago, it was really overgrown with vines. And then people started complaining. They thought it looked like they you know,
Clear cut it.
clear-cut, napalmed and everything, the state park, because they had to take out the understory. But it's a, you know, I don't know, 10, 15-year project to restore the woodlands there. And if you add up some of these open spaces like Sewell Point and, you know, around Public Works Building and all those, it's a lot. So they're the crew that they currently have doing garden work, you know, with the little mini triangles as you come into town. They do a nice job with that, but they're not going to be able to tackle all of these.
Well, no, it took me 4 hours to remove the ivy from one bush in my
Yeah.
neighbor's yard.
And
Great.
where I live at the Meadows of Cape Island, we spent $20,000 on an area, a woodland area behind one of the units. I don't even know what, you know, it's probably,
It was a total of 45,000 that year.
and we're not done. It doesn't end because it's coming back. So,
As a member of the Green Team, can you mention this
I'm
kind of agreement?
I'm not currently on the green team.
Charlotte,
Yes?
you're a member of the Green Team. Can you talk about this with them?
I don't know that we've had a meeting lately. Have you been invited, Gretchen?
No, that's why I said I don't know if I am a member because I haven't gone to a meeting in years. I don't know if it was something that happened during the pandemic. I feel like, I don't know. I didn't resign. I just haven't heard anything.
I too. Ditto.
Okay.
Does anybody know if there are any private companies that specialize in,
When our group is thinking about trees and so forth, we have a wonderful opportunity to liaison with the Shade Tree Commission.
Who's in charge of the shade tree these days? Is it Jay?
It's
used
Jay.
to be, but
He's still on it, I think. I'm not sure he's chair anymore.
I know, I can't remember.
I can't either.
Put it in the minutes.
Sue Wichterman and
Sue resigned a little while ago.
Grow a new one.
All right, well, look, I'll reach out to Public Works and see if they can show up.
Perhaps someone from Shade Tree could also attend May's meeting so that it's collaborative and the information is shared.
Yeah.
It'd be helpful for one of us to to go to their meetings too.
Yeah.
A lot of what they do is the same thing that this group does
I mean, you mentioned
in our spare time.
the trees on the school property. I mean, that's Board of Education. I'm not so sure that they're going to want to,
Yeah, they might.
the city's not going to want to go on there unless they get Board of Ed approval.
You have to, you know, pick your battles.
Right.
It's a process, people. I don't want to say, we'll make it work, but, you know, it's tough to get things moving, especially when it costs a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
And summer's coming up, or spring's coming up, and I know the mayor is going to be wanting the city to look good, so you know they're going to be spread thin, all public works. So we'll make it work, but it's a process, okay?
By the way, the woman's name who was on the Shade Tree Commission is Ruth Ann Stewart, Stewart. And she lives on Lafayette Street, and she grew up roaming the property that the Meadows, when it was a tennis court, and I mean, and the golf course, she's been in town forever, and her family have been here.
Anybody else have anything?
Can I just mention that the Garden Club is holding its every other year plant sale on May 13th at Kiwanis Park, Rotary Park, starting at 9 in the morning and going until we've sold all our plants and baked goods. There's annuals, perennials, everything. May 13th, It's Saturday, May 13th,
Rotary?
Rotary Park.
Merrill, can you email everybody an updated list of our members here?
Did I still get yours wrong?
No, I don't know that, but I mean, make sure, I want to get the most recent list of everybody on. Okay.
I thought I sent that out.
Yeah, I realized I had an older list also. I thought I got a new one, but apparently not.
Date on it, so then we'll all know what.
That's a good idea.
I mean, everybody ought to have an updated list.
Okay.
Anybody else have anything? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okey-dokey. Mic's off, please.
Did you drive?
Yeah,
Where'd you park?
right out front. I found a
Did you
spot.
feed the meter?
Yeah,
You don't get much for a quarter.
no, you don't.